And in Carson's mind, when he got benched, it was over. Bottom line. We know that now.
You're listening to the JAKIB Media Sports Network in partnership with AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. Subscribe to the JAKIB Media channel on YouTube for access to all daily sports content.
All right, welcome back. And you heard the man. Make sure you subscribe to the JAKIB Media YouTube platform, JAKIB Media. All right, it's Monday, back from the weekend, and it's now time for Johnny Mack, our NFL Eagles insider, John McMullen. Follow him on Twitter at JFMcMullen, PhillyVoice.com, SI.com, host of Extending the Play every Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11. Johnny Mack, how are you tonight, sir?
Doing well. How are you, Brian?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Let's get another week going here. And, you know, obviously Thursday, in case anyone lives under a rock, Carson Wentz was traded to the Colts. And that's obviously been the story that's gotten us up to tonight. It's going to get us much further as well. So, John, let me just hand the ball to you real quick and just fill us in on, you know, anything since our last conversation regarding Carson Wentz and the Eagles.
I don't know if there's much. If you look at sort of Albert Breer described the entire process, which is much of what we have said over the years, going all the way back to the first incarnation, the so-called quarterback incubator of the Eagles that developed Carson Wentz, and sort of the good cop, Doug Peterson, the bad cop was John DeFilippo, and sort of the medium cop was Frank Reich. That's how Albert described it. As we mentioned, you know, I've said time and time again that John DeFilippo was the hard you-know-what, the hard-nosed coach that really got on Carson Wentz when it came to his mechanics and fundamentals, which were lacking coming from North Dakota State. And ever since he left, it's been a sort of a slow downward turn, and it's sort of picked up before the 2020 season. Left to his own devices, so to speak, in the off season. So that explains a lot. And he also went into the process, which we've also told you on this show consistently. Eagles tried to sort of drum up this trade market. Really, it was just Indianapolis. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that that's where Carson wanted to go. He made it pretty clear to the Chicago Bears, who would have been interested, that he didn't want to go there. And a lot of the reasons he didn't want to go there were he wanted to get out of the sports-centric type market that's going to look at everything like we do. And Chicago's the same way. I got news for people. It might be a little bit, but I don't even know if it's a little bit. It's a bigger market. The fans are just as demanding, and I don't think he wanted that. I think he wanted a more laid-back environment. And I'll get that in Indianapolis, but look, if you're starting quarterback in the NFL, I don't care who you are, what city it is, if you don't play well, you're going to get criticism, and it's going to get ugly at times, and it's going to get ugly even in Indianapolis if he doesn't play well. Bottom line.
And to add to, that topic, I saw you retweet Torrey Smith, who quote tweeted John Clark. That's 2021 in a nutshell. But Torrey Smith says,
he was quote tweeting an interview he did with John Clark. So it went to another level, an inception level.
Yeah, right.
Because it was Torrey's original quote. So.
Okay, there it is, if everyone follows that. Go to your social media device. I don't know what to tell you. No, but essentially, and then John, add to this, but I'll set it up. Can someone please show me multiple examples of a franchise QB that was benched and wanted to come back and play for that team? ? A lot of y'all don't like keeping it real, and it shows. And I'm just going to add this. he wasn't playing like a franchise quarterback. Like, he's implying that the benching wasn't, deserved, for lack of a better way to put it. What's your thoughts on all that?
No, I don't think that's what Torrey was saying. I think, everybody's pretty much on board with Carson was not playing well. But where it kind of goes off the rails, and I think, and I've said this a lot. I mean, people can talk about, well, you should compete, and I've said this on the show. It's not how it works. I got news for you. It's not how it works. If you're the starting quarterback, you're the starting quarterback. And, yeah, I mean, everybody's going to be upset if they get benched. Now, the realization is, I've said at the end, Doug didn't want to bench Carson Wentz. He benched himself because he played so poorly. I don't think anybody in that organization wanted to bench Carson Wentz. But at the end, you went with him too long. I mean, that's how poorly he was performing. But I think what Torrey was trying to say is these people who, give the high school rah-rah speech that, well, he should have wanted to stay and he should have wanted to fight for his job. That's not how it works in the NFL. And I talk about the entitlement of these quarterbacks, and we've seen it all over the league this offseason. That's how it works. But when you talk about Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers, what's the difference between them and Carson Wentz? They perform. So I don't have a problem with it from either perspective. The Eagles knew it was over, and Carson Wentz was upset because he got benched. But from a personal standpoint, Carson's got to realize, okay, you wanted a new situation. You got a new situation. But if you don't improve your play, your new situation isn't going to be better than your old situation.
We've talked about Doug and Carson a lot, but I do want to ask you this because you bring up, Doug didn't want to bench Carson, and that's not the first time you said that. But then I just want to know where it all went wrong with the report coming out the other day. They didn't talk for 8, 9, 10 weeks on a personal level, and, how south that relationship went. And if Doug, cared about Carson, wanted to see him succeed, didn't want to bench him, waited until the last possible minute, then what was the issue?
Well, I don't think it was 8 or 9 weeks. I think clearly there was a fracture in the relationship. And, I mentioned that bad cop, good cop. And now that John DeFilippo was gone and Mike Groh was the second bad cop, and they fired Mike Groh, and I've talked about that a lot. The Eagles shouldn't have done that. And they sort of kowtowed to Carson Wentz. But that was a Jeffrey Lurie decision. And all of a sudden, you're running out of bad cops because Carson likes Press Taylor. So who turns into the bad cop? Doug Peterson, who was once the good cop. And that's kind of what happened. But that part, I don't know where this 8, 9 weeks. I mean, as I said, I saw them talking over that time frame. Now, when he got benched, then it became a pure text relationship. And that, there's no question there's a lot of immaturity there likely from Carson's standpoint to start. And I don't know how much Doug tried to reach out. He's got to be the adult in there, and maybe he tried to be, but I don't know that for a fact. But yeah, you got to be more professional. But it was not 8 or 9 weeks. It was more like the final 4 weeks when he was benched. And in Carson's mind, when he got benched, it was over. Bottom line, we know that now. So for all the talk and all the does he want out, doesn't he want out? Look, Howie Roseman gave his agent permission to seek a trade, and that's because he wanted out. So you can use semantics and say he didn't request a trade. Well, no, because they didn't have to. They went to Howie and they said this relationship is broken. Howie kind of said, well, what can we do to fix it? They essentially said nothing, and he said, go shop him. That's kind of what happened.
Talking with John McMullen, our NFL Eagles insider. Follow him at JF McMullen on Twitter. And John, you and I have been talking a lot about Carson Wentz and Doug and the whole quarterback dynamic in Philadelphia right now, especially since Thursday. Let's get it back to the front office, though. And you have an excellent piece that was posted today on phillyvoice.com talking about Howie Roseman. And the title of the article is essentially, here's what you're missing about Eagles general manager Howie Roseman. So, John, fill us in on what you wrote, please.
Well, I think most of the fan base looks at Howie as the supervillain, sort of like the Bond villain, the all-encompassing problem for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think same, if you think about it, the cartoonish nature of it, it's just, it's much more than that. We've kind of just went through the whole process where I barely mentioned Howie. I mentioned Jeffrey a lot, and Jeffrey's at almost at every turn in this relationship and how it went bad was something that Jeffrey Lurie did. Now, by no means did Jeffrey Lurie want to things to go poorly with Carson Wentz. I mean, he was the guy who signed him to the large extension and approved all these moves, approved the historic assets being moved to acquire him. So by no means did he want this to go wrong, but he made a lot of bad decisions along the way that allowed it to go wrong. Mike Groh is one of the more underreported ones of those because that was set up for a reason. It was set up to replicate the success of Doug and Frank and John DeFilippo from 2016 and 2017. That's why Doug did it that way. And for lack of the better terms, good cop, bad cop, medium cop, all of a sudden it became Mike Groh fit into the John DeFilippo role, and Carson didn't like him. And so what? I mean, he needs that. And by the way, hopefully he realizes that in Indianapolis, and hopefully he learns from something in Philadelphia, and he realizes, you know what, I do need somebody who's going to call me out on certain things, and maybe he gets back on the right track. But if you move forward, we talked about the firing of Doug Peterson. If he wanted to salvage this relationship, maybe he would have said, no, Doug's the head coach of this team. You're the quarterback. I talked about it with Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. If I'm the Houston Texans, I say, look, I think you're a great player, Deshaun Watson, but I don't care what you think I should do to hire my head coach and my general manager. I'm sorry. That's out of your purview. If I'm the Seattle Seahawks and I'm John Snyder, I'm saying, look, Russell, I want to get you players that you feel comfortable with, but you're not out there scouting. I'm not going to ask you who we should pick in the draft. That's not how it works. I mean, sometimes you got to reel these guys back in. And I think the Eagles did a really, really bad job of that.
And we've been talking about this a lot, and I don't completely disagree with you, but I'll point to a couple things. Number one, I'll point to the NBA, and that's not a fair apples-to-apples comparison, but listen, stars in the NBA, they pick their head coaches. LeBron James has fired more head coaches than some general managers in the NBA ever have. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm not really saying it's wrong either. That's the reality of that sport. So part of this is why the NBA and not the NFL. And then part two is I look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it seems like that organization with Bruce Arians leading the way is very open. Like he says, I let Tom run practices. I let them take days off. And I'm sure they have input on personnel decisions. So your thoughts on all that?
Well, yeah, and the NFL, and I've kind of mentioned it, is shifting towards more of an NBA sentiment, NBA mindset. I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. But I agree with you, it is shifting in that direction. And I think if organizations are smart, they'll try to fight back against that. But clearly they're losing that battle. and maybe going slowly. It's not certainly to the NBA degree, as you mentioned, but it's certainly trending in that direction. But I did kind of get off on a tangent because we were talking about Howie, and I mentioned what people don't understand about Howie Roseman is he's that lightning rod, and he's taking the heat for Jeffrey Lurie. So if you're Jeffrey Lurie, and people say, why does he keep him? Why does he keep him? Well, guess what? You're all excoriating Roseman. You're not excoriating Lurie. So from his standpoint, I compared it to he's a localized version of Roger Goodell. If you think about all the NFL scandals and all the issues, whatever you want to call them, from Colin Kaepernick to punishment of certain players, the PEDs, who gets all the you-know-what? It's Roger Goodell. But who's really in charge of the league? It's the 32 owners. But all anybody talks about is Roger Goodell this, Roger Goodell's an idiot, Roger Goodell that. He's a lightning rod. Well, locally, Howie Roseman's a lightning rod for Jeffrey Lurie. And as long as he can keep that thick skin, and as long as he can take it, and by the way, that's, as I mentioned in the column, that's waning, because they're getting really upset down there. And Howie's getting really upset about all the hits he's taken, and maybe it's wearing on him. And then things can go in a negative direction. But, you know, I joked he can always get darker tint on his windows. If he has that thick skin, Jeffrey Lurie's happy because it sort of shields him from the criticism. If Howie Roseman is gone, the criticism isn't going away. It's just going somewhere else. And maybe when the season starts, maybe it'll start to fall on Nick Sirianni. Maybe it'll start to fall on Jalen Hurts or whoever the quarterback is. In the offseason, though, if you hire a new general manager, nobody's going to kill that guy. They're going to say, who made all these mistakes? And they're going to look at the guy at the top of the ladder. Now, you can't do anything. He's the owner of the team. You can't fire the owner. But he doesn't want to take that criticism, Jeffrey Lurie.
Talking with John McMullen, our NFL Eagles insider. Follow him on Twitter at JFMcMullen, PhillyVoice.com, SI.com. You can listen to him host Extending the Play every Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11. You know, you say if Howie's not there as a shield, it's going to go to Lurie. Well, why can't he just get the next GM to be the shield? Why can't he just get a new human shield?
That's what I just said. If you have a new guy, okay, you bring in a new guy, he's got a honeymoon period. He didn't do anything. They're thrilled because you just got rid of the Bond villain. But the team still stinks. And,
right.
You know, Howie's not around to kick around. So, again, that visceral hate, and believe me, it's hate right now, that's got to go somewhere. And where does it go? Again, as I said, when you kick off, maybe it goes to Nick Sirianni. Maybe it goes to the quarterback, whoever that is. But until you get to that point, where's it going? Where's the outlet? Who did all this? Who created? Who fired the Super Bowl winning coach? Who traded Carson Wentz after giving him that extension? Who forced God to fire Mike Rowe? Who did all this? Well, Howie's a part of it. I'm not trying to, say there's no culpability there, but we all know where these decisions came from, or you should know. Because Howie Roseman didn't want to fire Doug Peterson. Howie Roseman didn't give a you-know-what if Doug Peterson wanted to keep Mike Rowe. These were all ownership decisions, whether people understand that or not.
So is that the main and only reason that Howie is still in town for, Jeffrey Lurie doesn't want to become exposed for more potential blame? Because my question to you is, how and why is Howie still here? And, obviously it seems like you just answered that for the past few minutes.
No, I just think that's a part people don't think about.
Okay.
There's a lot of reasons he's here. One of them I also explained in the column. The football operations department is 27 deep on the Philadelphia Eagles. The scouting department is 17 deep. And then you have the coaching staff, which they just put together, and the roster itself. Howie Roseman is in charge of all of that. And Jeffrey thinks he does a good job managing the department. It's a bigger job, and this is one of the few things I'll defend Jeffrey on. It's a far bigger job than fans understand. All fans care about is draft picks and free agents, and that they think that's all Howie does. It's not. He runs all those departments. He hires those people, and he does all that sort of heavy lifting for the organization. Jeffrey thinks he does a very good job with that. Now, you could argue he does, he doesn't. He brought up the GM factory. That was another joke. They think they have 5 future GMs in the building. He thinks Howie's responsible for bringing those good people in the building. Joe Douglas got a GM job. Andrew Berry got a GM job. John Dorsey got a high-level job after he came back to Philadelphia. Around the rest of the league, before the season, the Eagles organization was very well regarded. Jeffrey gives Howie credit for that.
John McMullen every night right here on The Fix for your football fix, Eagles fix, 7:30 p.m., Monday to Friday on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. If you miss any of the shows and any of John and I, did I say that right? John and our conversation? That's a weird one. But okay, if you miss any of our conversation, JAKIB Media on YouTube, JAKIB Media, subscribe and get the content daily. John, I appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you, Ryan.
Yep, thank you. There he is, Johnny Mac. Good stuff as always, Death, taxes, prop swap writing you a check, and Johnny Mac providing.
Always dishing, Johnny is.
Always. All right, let's get to the top of the hour VSiN update. We'll get into a break. We'll get the second hour underway as we are live inside the Prop Swap studios. When we come back, our old friend, Brad Feinberg, formerly of NBC Philly and Covers.com. He's going to join Luke and I to talk about college hoops and the futures market and whatever else we stumble upon on The Fix. Taking a quick break. All that and more still ahead. Marcus Hayes at 8:30 as well.
The middle.
That's what I told you, man. I got a hangover, man. So
what is this hangover?
Yeah, what's with this hangover?
Right,
what happened yesterday?
Cheap vodka, bro. Cheap vodka, man.
What?
Well, I took pineapple vodka with the pineapples, and I infused it for like a week.
That's too much pineapple.
Pineapple is terrible.
It was so sweet that you would just keep on drinking it. I just kept on drinking it.
Did you say you took pineapple vodka and then infused it into pineapples?
Yes.
I mean, there's sorority girls right now at Penn State that are laughing at you, Barrett. He took pineapple vodka and infused it into pineapples.
I thought it would be a better taste, and it was a better taste. It was a great taste. It just went down too fast. Went down way too fast, man. And next thing you know, man, I'm 3 shades to the wind.
See,
watching Queen Latifah.
Oh, my God. That's the line of the day.
The Middle with Eitan Shanders, Barrett Brooks, and Harry Mays. Weekdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern.